Hey everybody, it's Nick. Another great session this week. I realize I say that pretty much every week, but it's actually going really well. The campaign is going really great, and so it ends up being a lot of great sessions. It's not immediately obvious to me every time I start a new campaign that it's going to go really well and have a lot of fun for everybody in store. We hadn't all played together. I hadn't DM'd for all these players individually, and they hadn't played together as a group. Some of them hadn't ever played at all, and so it wasn't obvious to me that it was going to work or be fun. But it is turning out to be very fun and great for the group. So it's been great. It's been a really good campaign. So this week we used a wish, flew an airship, spent a lot of time discussing things, and ambushed some pirates by knocking on the front door and saying hello. But first, when last we left our heroes, the players had finally recovered the Codex Mortis. They have been sort of after this artifact for a long time. They recovered it from some vampires. They returned it to its supposed rightful guardian, who gave them some rewards that can be used against a beholder that is encroaching on their castle. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much caught up, actually. There's not much to it. They needed a thing, they got the thing, they returned it to the guy gave them some stuff to defeat an enemy. It's pretty straightforward, actually. So the session began with everybody at the table sort of getting caught up on things. You know, we had some players sort of intermittently missing for that adventure. I don't think we had all 5 players at the table together since they were with the Beholder the last time. So like 4 sessions, maybe 5 sessions. It's been a little bit, maybe not that many, but still several sessions that they haven't all been together. So they're all sort of getting caught up and on the same page and on the same mindset again. And they were basically like, okay, we're gonna cure vampirism. We're gonna get rid of our vampirism. And Jason had just sort of jumped back in. He had been missing for a little bit, and he can always be counted on to be goated. And I definitely spent some time sort of saying, hey, I mean, are you sure you want to get rid of vampirism? Are you sure? I mean, vampires have a lot of power, and they got a lot of good stuff. I mean, sure, you sunburn a little easier than normal, but come on, think of all the power and ability. Jason can always be counted on to be somebody who could goad a little bit. He by far is the one who is going to push the button or do the thing. He gets himself into the most ridiculous of situations, so it's very easy to sort of poke a little bit and say, oh, but what about this thing? Sounds really cool. So he definitely spent some time thinking about it, and it was one of those situations where Ryu, his character, had no interest in becoming a vampire. But Jason, how often do you get to play a sword-wielding vampire? That sounds pretty cool. So Jason spent some time thinking it over, and the rest of the party was like, whoa, dude, just so you know, we're all getting rid of vampirism right now. If you want to leave the vampirism train, this is your only exit. And remember, if you want to go and get vampirism later, you know where some vampires are. So go get bitten by them. But if you want it gone, this is your only chance. And so they sort of talked him off the ledge. I had never intended, by the way, of talking him into completely sticking with vampirism. I just wanted to poke the buttons a little bit just to get him to think about it. If you have presented your players with a situation where there is one obvious right answer, I feel like you've sort of let them down a little bit. I'm very big in my style on choices and decisions and consequences, and there not being a right answer, and you have to choose what to do and live with the consequences. That's very much my style as a DM, and so I try never to give my players an obvious answer. Do you keep the vampirism and have to drink the blood of living creatures, but also cool vampirism abilities? And you have to weigh the trade-offs there and see which one you think is more viable. I don't think there's a right answer there. I just think it's a cool decision. So they're all on the same page. They wish to be cured of vampirism. They didn't try anything funny where they sort of kept some vampiristic abilities that were good but got rid of all the bad ones. It was a straightforward, like, we just don't want this anymore, and I told them it's going to work no matter what, so it worked. It was sort of actually a pretty boring wish for the first wish ever in my campaign, but it was predictable and it was a safe outcome for them. So next they wanted to figure out more about beholders, and we're going to go fight this beholder at some point sooner rather than later, hopefully. And we need to know some more about them. Do they have any weaknesses? What are they about? Things like that. And so they went to a temple and asked to speak to some clerics about if they could examine some records about beholders and what are they about and any weaknesses and things like that. And I had a lot of fun role-playing a sort of a cranky, crotchety old librarian cleric. He was really fun. And I also introduced Volo into my world's lore, sort of off the cuff. I was improvising, how these monster records would have been made, and I just said, hey, there's already in Forgotten Realms some lore of a dude who did this. What if I just took him? So I put in Volo. I think his full first name is like Volothamp or whatever. But he sort of was the one who had cataloged monsters and went all the way through the alphabet trying to find as many as he could. And I made some joke about how he only got through R because he was killed by like a rock or a Remoraz or something like that. And the players sort of thought that was really good. But they didn't really know who Volo was. They hadn't really read or heard of Volo's Guide to Monsters for the most part. And so it was sort of just a reference for me. I do that all the time where I put a joke in my campaign, and I get it because I think I'm hilarious, but my players don't understand the reference, and that's fine, as long as I get to make the joke for me. Sometimes you just do some of this world-building stuff for you as a DM, and it's not a big deal. So I definitely threw that in. It was a lot of fun, but they researched up on some beholders and then figured, all right, let's go do the next thing. And the next thing proved to be a little difficult, trying to decide what to do next. These players spend a lot of time now discussing ideas. And back when Orar was in the party, Matt, playing him, was able to insert some very veteran and tactical decisions and say, hey, what if we did this? And all the players were like, actually, that's a really good idea. Let's do that. And now that he is missing, they sort of feel, apologies for the pun, lost at sea. Got it! Because now Matt is playing a reclusive, brand new to the world baby dragon and isn't able to, and chooses willfully not to contribute a lot of those tactical discussions about what to do next. And so they spend a lot of time discussing and debating, do we just go fight the beholder? Do we try desperately to do something else because we don't want to fight the beholder? Some of them are sort of joking about, I'd really love to have a +4 in proficiency before I fought that beholder, because they're 8th level right now, 9th level, they get 4 as their proficiency bonus. But I've sort of decided that it would take there's almost no way they could get level 9 before fighting this beholder. Either if they go away and do separate things and run away for a long time, it's going to come attack their castle, or they've got to fight it faster. And so they pretty much have to fight it this level at some point in time or another. I don't know when or how, but I think it's going to come up next session. We'll see. So they end up, after discussing and debating what do we do next, they say, let's go home. First off, we have an airship. Let's fly our airship home. Let's open the vault. They remember that they have a vault that they have not opened yet in their castle, in their stronghold, and there is sort of some ingredients and recipe that you need to open it up to sort of claim it. You are its master, and so they have all those pieces now, and they're like, hey, let's go open up the vault, see what's in there. Maybe it's got some useful stuff that we can use to fight the beholder. Really good idea. They needed to go home anyway, so they telepathically communicate with Orar and say, hey, send the ship south. We're going back home. This is an important point to note, too, because that ship that Orar is on, their sailing ship, things are not going great among the crew. And the players sort of know this, that the crew has sort of gone through times of discomfort. I'm going to make sure to reiterate that in the next session, that the crew are ready to go home. They're ready to be done. They've been gone for maybe 6 months from their home nation of Krell, and they want to get out of here and go and get their money. They've got money waiting for them. They see we've done our job, and so basically if the players don't go and deal with the beholder immediately, and in the crew's eyes, the crew will just mutiny and kick Orar off the ship and sail back to Krell and say, yep, mission accomplished, give us our cash. And so I've sort of seeded that a little bit, but we'll see what the players do with that information. The crew is not happy about being here, though. They want to go home. And now the players have their own airship, and they could afford to let the crew go. But we'll see what they decide to do going forward, how much they sort of dilly-dally, which is a great phrase, use it more often. And the characters don't usually feel like they are faffing about. The players, though, spend a lot of time discussing what do we do next. Because, again, they don't have that veteran voice to help them sort of guide them a bit. And it's not that they're circling the drain and saying the same ideas over and over again without being able to come to any resolution. It's that they have very different ideas about what we should do and why we should do it and how we should do it. Different players have different goals and objectives and lines in the sand they won't cross and reasons why they want to do some things instead of others. And so they spend a lot of time discussing back and forth. You'll see a pretty good example of that near the end of this session. There's a time when they have a bit of a debate about what to do and why. So we'll delve into that when it comes up. But first, they go home. They unlock their vault. There's sort of a skyship, airship flying over their castle that has a bunch of orcs in it already, the tribe of orcs that they're working with, not enemies. And they have to sort of assuage the orcs' concerns because there's an airship over land that the orcs have never seen or heard of before, and that's pretty crazy. And so they park their airship and drop on down and open up the vault. And the vault was something I had been planning for a long time and finally got to come up, and I was super excited. A lot of cool stuff in this vault. Really interesting. Sort of opened up some long-term late game options as well. So we'll see what happens with that. But they open it up, they do the recipe that they need to do to open it up, and inside there's a bunch of wealth gems and gold and all kinds of stuff like that. They find a suit of armor and a sword and a cape and a very fearsome looking warrior figure who is menacing his opponents, and they also find a small book in the middle of the room on a pedestal, and they find a very large codex at the other end of the room at the feet of a statue to Asmodeus. Asmodeus? A lot of people pronounce it different ways. I'm going to call it Asmodeus. That's what I have my whole life.
And I don't think it's cracking anyways. Always heard it said cracking.
Oh, with a long A?
Uh-huh.
No. Crocken's how it's pronounced in the original Scandinavian, and Kraken's closer to that.
Well, we ain't original Scandinavians, are we? Cracking.
It's a mythological creature, I can call it what I want.
But yeah, Archduke of the Nine, Asmodeus, not good news, not bad news, who knows? We'll find out. So here's an important point. The players don't know whose castle this was originally. They know that they took it from the lizard folk, and that was pretty much it. They don't know who lived here before or anything like that. So they begin exploring and picking up some items and checking them out and gathering all the gold and gems up. And Travis takes a look at that journal, the little book, and it turned out to be a journal. And I could surprise you guys and not tell you what was in there, but where's the fun in that? So I will put a link down below to the document I sent to Hunter, Travis's player, for the contents of that book. And it did cause him to reach out in prayer to an individual. So it was very interesting. A lot of side conversations, Facebook Messenger chats, back and forth. He's going down some interesting paths. It's gonna be real cool. It's going to be real cool. So while he is doing that, some of the other players look at the Codex. There's just like, we just got rid of one of these things. What does this do? And on the side, it's got the inscription, Codex Incabulum. And it's the Book of Fiends. And they open it up and start to flip around and realize you can sort of become a demon and summon demons and control demons and devils and fiendish entities. Not just demons, but fiendish entities. And so they sort of close it immediately and roll their eyes and go, okay, great. So the Codex Mortis is to undead what the Codex Incabulum is to fiends. Okay, well, maybe we don't want this thing. And they briefly discuss giving it to the same individual that they gave the Codex Mortis to and say maybe he'll give us some more rewards. And they quickly shut that down because, you know, maybe two of these things is too much for one person to have. What if they sort of, you know, raise armies of undead and fiends everywhere? That's not good. So let's just, hey, it's, you know, it's safe in the vault. It was safe in the vault for a long time. Let's just leave it in the vault here. So that's what they decided to do with that. So they then go around and check out the other items, the cloak and the sword and the armor, and try to figure some stuff out. Ryu swings around the sword a bit and figures out it's a sword of life stealing. And then Hunter, Travis, puts on the armor, the suit of armor. And I don't remember exactly what all it does. I think I based it largely off of the demon armor from the DMG. And I think I took away the claws. I think that's what it is. I took away the claws and instead gave it a cool fear ability. And so it's pretty neat. It's actually decently powerful. It's a really cool set of armor. And it's plate armor, which is very expensive. The players don't have any plate armor at this point. And so he puts it on, and they very quickly discover the curse that you can't take it off. And they sort of hem and haw over this for a little bit and try to pry it off. And then Ryu comes over and puts a sword sort of in there and sort of wedges it and tries to pull it off. And he rolls a natural 20. And so I describe how he rips off the piece of armor with Travis's flesh still attached to it. And it did something crazy, like 60 points of damage to Travis as it rips off the skin on his arm. And they quickly stick it back on there and sort of leave it and say, maybe we should just leave this suit of armor where it is for now. It's, I guess, useful, and it's just, that you can't take it off. It's kind of annoying. But that freaked the players out sufficiently. They realized, maybe we shouldn't take this off just yet. But anyways, they managed to loot the vault, and they have a lot of cool toys, and so they have to figure out now, what do we do? What do we do next? We need a new objective. And they talk about going after the beholder. They've got all their stuff. They could go deal with the beholder right now. And for some reason, they decide not to. I think, again, they're sort of like putting it off as long as they think they can. And they say, hey, remember those pirates that attacked us like 12 sessions ago? What if we went to their hideout, which is on the very northern end of this island, and went and made sure that they were going to be friendly neighbors? And so they sort of said, yeah, that's a better plan than this. Let's go that way. Let's go that way. And so they head off north, and they try to go and engage with these pirates. And this was where the discussion came in. This was where the debate about what do we do and how do we do it came into full force. Because they couldn't agree on a purpose for this excursion. They couldn't decide, why are we going to go talk to these pirates? Clement wanted to go and make sure that they weren't going to be hostile. Travis wanted to walk inside and shoot everything. Tico didn't care as long as we had a plan. And so they spent a lot of time debating and discussing back and forth, hey, what are we going to do? And Travis tried to just walk inside, and Clement threw a dagger at him to hey, stop, pay attention to me. So it was very interesting. The players are all cool. Players are all fine with each other. There's no conflict happening, but the characters were definitely butting heads here, and it was a very cool moment to watch. And I got to just kind of sit back and observe as a DM and just watch them discuss and negotiate with each other how they were going to discuss and negotiate with the pirates. And so they know where the pirates are. They're inside this cavern, the seaside cavern. It's massive, hundreds of feet in either direction. Their whole ship is in there. It sort of seems to be their secret hideaway. And the players sort of say, what are we doing here? Because we want different things from this objective, but we all are here together. What are we deciding to do? And so Clement suggested, finally, that he would fly in with his boots of flying, hovering over the water, and sort of discuss options for peace. And basically his objective was just letting them know, hey, we're new in the area, we've got a castle down south, don't attack us. And all the other players would be sort of under the water, sort of swimming in or sneaking in from the side or whatever they could think of to remain unseen. And if something went wrong with Clement's negotiations, they would spring the trap. That was sort of their objective. And so they say, okay, that's something at least. And they begin this endeavor. And Clement flies into the middle of 30-some pirates with their very strong pirate captain and says, hi, hello there, we're new to the neighborhood. Would you like to give us a welcome basket? Please don't murder us. It was pretty interesting. It was a really good conversation. The pirate captain was basically like Wesley as the Dread Pirate Roberts from the movie Princess Bride. So I had a ton of fun role-playing him. It's like that character, but if he was actually evil. And from there, things went pretty poorly, actually. Clement's attitude was a little forward and aggressive, and the pirate looked around and said, there's 30 of us and one of you. So here's my counter-proposal. Give me those boots of flying that you are wearing, and I'll let you swim out of here in peace. And at this, Travis had been inching closer and closer and closer, and he is going to try and use his new armor fear ability on as many people as he can. And, Ryu has snuck up onto the ship nearby and is going to throw some people into the water. It's about to be initiative, and that's where we ended the session. So, Clement has an ultimatum, and the players are about to attack all these pirates, and I feel no % bad about what might happen. I've told them there's 30 pirates. There's the pirate captain, pretty strong. I'll probably use minions for all these pirates, because 30 people is a ton. I'll just use minions and do mass attacks and things like that. But I don't know how it's going to go for the players. The AC doesn't change all that much. They've got a bunch of hit points, but how many javelins can you take to the face before you go down? I don't know. So we'll see what the players do. I think they're going to fight it out. They'll probably win, but it's going to be interesting for sure. That's how we're going to start it off. And I am predicting that next session will end with a fight with the Beholder. That they will probably fight the pirates and then go home and rest and then go fight the Beholder. That's sort of what they've talked about. That's what I'm predicting. We'll see what happens. Obviously, players always throw things off the rail. But next week should be really interesting. We're going to start off with a huge fight with some pirates and then hopefully end with a really climactic boss battle. Maybe some player death in there with a Beholder and a Necromancer with the Hand of Vecna. So obviously, a lot of interesting things going on. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next week.